Rytis, my friend, are you alive? Are you with us? Or is just some zombie version in the URBONUS studio on this URBONUS podcast?
At the moment, I'm still pretty good. I drank a lot of Coke, Red Bull, coffee. So at the moment, I'm still feeling alive. But I have 3 podcasts today in total, so I don't know what's gonna happen during the day. I might become unconscious at some point, but for our podcast, for the next 40 minutes or an hour, I think I have some energy in me.
I think you just should make it clear that it's not like you started your day this morning. I mean, it's still kind of ongoing day for you since yesterday, basically, right? Can you
It's still
explain your,
Tuesday for
let's
Rytis.
say, schedule when your day actually has started?
Well, Wednesday I woke up as usual, like 11 or half past 11, something like that. Usual stuff for me, And yeah, I just had my normal day. Then, of course, the EuroLeague playoffs, Zalgiris Barca game. After that, I went home as quickly as possible to catch up on Manchester City Arsenal. After that, I had to watch Barcelona football team playing their second half with Rayo Vallecano, and then it was like 1 a.m. already, and my plan was to watch all the NBA games. So I figured that it's pointless to go to sleep for half an hour or 40 minutes. So I just waited until Cleveland Cavaliers and New York Knicks started, and then I just watched all 4 games this night, and I think it ended like at 8 a.m. I had my alarm clock set at 9:30 for our podcast. So again, I decided that it wouldn't help me to have 1 hour of sleep. So I haven't slept for almost 24 hours so far. Yeah, it still feels like a very long Wednesday to me, even though it's already Thursday. But I just had to watch all the NBA action. It was just such an amazing night, and I couldn't miss it. So yeah. Sorry if I have some struggles during the podcast.
Can you love
So
sports
far, you look
more
really
than
good.
Rytis?
I don't know, man. Maybe you can. I mean, it's just that I try to watch so much in different leagues, different sports, and it takes some time. And sometimes I have to sacrifice my sleep or something like that.
And
my
especially
personal life.
and especially right now that it's playoffs time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, on a normal day, I could like wake up, don't spoil the results, and watch it on demand. But today it was impossible because like I said, I have a very busy day. I have an NBA podcast as well, so I have to be prepared, and it wouldn't be possible for me to catch up somehow. So I had to watch everything live. But I'll be all right. It's not the first time. It's not. Donatas was working with me last year during the Winter Olympics, when I had to adjust to a different time zone while being in Lithuania. So I can manage it.
Hey, and since you watched all those NBA playoff games tonight, can you be real quick with your impressions about Bucks being eliminated by the Heat in 5?
Yeah, I mean it's a shocker, really. I'm still stunned by what happened, but it's not just about tonight's game. I mean, they were already down 1-3 in the series, and we must not forget that Giannis missed 2 games in this series. It obviously affected the whole outcome. However, I mean, they were in a good position to tie the series in Miami. They were up 10 in the fourth quarter, but Jimmy Buckets was just unstoppable. I mean, probably what he did in Game 4 was closest from what I've seen to MJ in today's NBA. I'm talking about his 56-point game. And today in Game 5, I mean, it was just a disaster. Honestly, I can't see how Coach Bud keeps his job after what he did tonight. It's just amateur mistakes. Like, I'm not even going to talk about them blowing a 13-point lead in the fourth quarter, how Eric Spoelstra outsmarted him with some really great tactical decisions, but simple things like after Butler made a game-tying shot, an amazing shot, even though you can say probably there was a foul before that.
Offensive foul. It was probably offensive foul.
Probably
I
an
watched the
offensive
highlights,
foul.
so.
It wasn't called, but still you have to give credit when a player makes a shot falling to the ground in a game that is potentially a game to close the series. But then there was like half a second left, and Coach Bud had a timeout. He didn't take the timeout. The game went to overtime. In the overtime, Miami Heat had a good run. They were up 7. He had 2 timeouts. He didn't take a timeout then when they were down 7 with like less than 2 minutes to go. Somehow they had a chance because Middleton was fouled on a 3-point shot. He made his free throws. Giannis made a layup. They were down 2. They made a stop. They grabbed the rebound. And they have one last possession to save their season. And he doesn't take a timeout again. He's probably thinking Giannis can run in the transition, but he doesn't. And then everything stops. He has the opportunity to take the timeout when he sees that they're not doing anything good on the court. And in the end, Grayson Allen just ran the clock. And they didn't even have a shot to win or tie the game. And to me, it's like a coaching disaster what happened with Coach Budenholzer in this game and in the series in general. He was just out-coached by Eric Spoelstra. So these are my main takes. And Giannis is not the one to blame for this, even though he missed 13 free throws in Game 5. So missing 13 free throws is a lot. Yeah. If he makes at least 5 or 6 of those, they probably win the game because they were more or less in control during the second half. But still, Giannis was injured. He missed 2 games in this series. To me, it seemed like they can still win 3 on a row. They can save their season, but yeah, it just didn't happen. And all the credit goes to Coach Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler. He played like a superhero. And Bam Adebayo also really impressed me with his playmaking skills as a center. So yeah, these are my takes from this series.
But Rytis, how can 10, having so many assistant coaches not telling you to take a timeout? That's what seems mind-boggling to me. I mean, you have 0.5.
Players
0.7,
they can also take a timeout, no? So
yeah, they have 0.5, and they had 1 timeout left.
And they could draw up the similar play to what the Heat did.
Yeah,
a lob.
You at least have a shot at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're gonna make it, but you at least have an opportunity.
The chances are slim. Let's say 5% maybe. But.
I don't know. I mean, NBA head coaches have like 6 assistant coaches sitting next to them. You have a bench full of experienced veteran players. You have experienced players on the court, and they don't call a timeout. I mean, quite the opposite happened actually in the Golden State Warriors Sacramento Kings Game 4, when Steph Curry called a timeout when they
didn't have one.
Exactly, because Steve Kerr decided to use his last one for a coach's challenge. So they were punished with a technical, and they lost possession of the ball, and it basically cost them 4 points. And that game could have been killed by Harrison Barnes.
Almost cost
with an open look.
A dynasty there.
Yeah, it could have been a different series, but now we're talking about Warriors being up 3-2. So what's happening so far in the first round in the NBA is crazy. Really, I didn't expect the New York Knicks to be so solid. Basically without Julius Randle, or at least with half-injured Julius Randle. Of course, the main highlight is the Milwaukee Bucks, the number 1 seed, losing to number 8 seed Miami Heat, which makes Heat the first franchise in NBA's history to win a playoff series after the play-in, after winning the play-in tournament. The Lakers will probably be the second one if they can close the series at home with Memphis.
I think it's only the 6th time in history when an 8th seed beats number 1. If I'm not mistaken, I think I saw something on Twitter.
It should be the first time when they beat the number 1 seed in 5. Or the second time, I'm not so sure. But, I mean, upsetting the number 1 seed is one thing, but in 5?
Mm-hmm. Do you see it as a failure? Do you see this Bucks season as a failure?
Because Giannis was asked
the press conference,
about
right?
Yes, I did see that press conference bit. I I don't see it as Giannis' failure. I don't see it affecting. I don't see it affecting his legacy or anything like that. He didn't fail as an athlete, but the Milwaukee Bucks as a team failed because their goal was to win another NBA title, and they lost in the first round. Everybody was excited to see Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, just like last year. No, last year they were in the second round. Anyway, they were two best teams in the Eastern Conference during the regular season, and there cannot be any excuses for what happened. You cannot put excuses on Middleton being injured for a long part of the season, Giannis missing 2 games in the series or anything like that. I think Coach Budenholzer just has to take responsibility for this. And yes, it's a failure. It's not Giannis' failure. I love how he answered the question, but Milwaukee Bucks as a team failed. They didn't reach their ultimate goal. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Can we jump? Okay. Probably before we start talking about the EuroLeague playoffs, we have to explain why I'm here on Zoom and why your guys here in the studio. So I'm traveling in Monaco right now to cover Monaco and Maccabi series. So I have to do this podcast through Zoom. But since there was a lot of interesting action in the playoffs game 1, we decided that it would be shame to wait for Monday to discuss the first 2 games. So we want to share our hot reactions. So welcome to URBONUS podcast, everyone. Great to see you here. Great to see Rytis in such a good mood, despite having a sleepless night. Good to see you here, August, with a lot of stuff going on in BasketNews, both on Lithuanian and English edition. This is an exciting time for basketball fans, and let's start from the most fresh playoff matchup. Olympiacos beating Fenerbahce for the 5th time this year, and also for the 5th time in double-digit margin.
I mean, you kind of expected, I at least expected this series to go 3-0. And I think Fenerbahce put up quite a good fight yesterday. I didn't see the whole game because I was covering the Zalgiris and Barcelona matchup. But I think we saw what we expected. And we criticized Isaiah Cannon for having, struggling this season, for not showing the same game that we were used to seeing last year from him. But he had 5 3-pointers in the third quarter. But this shouldn't be as a surprise because he had his best 2 games in the regular season against who? Against the same team they're playing in the playoffs right now. So, when I saw him hit the first 3 in the transition in the first quarter, I was like, is this going to happen again? It happened only in the second half, not as in the regular season matchups where Olympiacos had 26 and 30-point leads already in the second quarter. But that was an amazing performance from him. Also, we saw what having Nick Calathes in your team in the playoffs does. And I think it is a good example of how shooting, or in his case, non-shooting, is exposed more and more each year in EuroLeague playoffs. We saw last 2 years, Barcelona was struggling with him basically being a non-factor in offense, playing 4-on-5. And you could compare Barcelona's game yesterday, how fluid their offense was against, Zalgiris, which defense is similar to what Bayern and Zenit offered before. And you can see what Fenerbahce, what troubles they had yesterday with basically every time Olympiacos helping from him and covering these driving gaps for other players. So it's going to be interesting to see how Rytis, adjusts maybe, how he puts Calathes in maybe other areas on the floor. So I think these are my 2 main takeaways from this game.
Yeah, life would be much easier with a healthy Scottie Wilbekin for Fenerbahce, for sure. But another thing...
do you play maybe Carson Edwards more,
I was thinking about it. I saw some people on Twitter also saying that, but I am not so sure. He's a EuroLeague rookie. We saw how he struggled in the regular season. I'm not so sure he can really have a huge influence in a playoff series against such a solid team like Olympiacos. Another thing, I don't really see how Fenerbahce can stop Mustafa Fall. He's just too big and too strong for them, and he does a lot of damage in the paint. So yeah, I mean,
they started Zalgiris to match up against him, but just like we saw him last year against Monaco,
exactly,
just
exactly.
having these stints where he is dominating the floor.
Monaco had same problems. Motiejunas suffered, Donta Hall suffered. They just suffered because Mustafa Fall is so strong and so big, and he's also a pretty good passer. If you double him, he can pass the ball to an open teammate. Yeah, of course, Olympiacos is a huge favorite. They protected their home court in the first game, but I'm still not ruling out Fenerbahce from this series. As we know, it's very simple. When you play the first 2 games away, you are happy with a split. So it's going to be a huge game for Fenerbahce on Friday. They're still in it. Let's see what the Tudors can offer in game 2.
Because also, you mentioned Fall, and you see those pick and rolls with Calathes, and they're basically giving him the floater, and they are happy with him shooting either a free mid-range or a floater. Mustafa Fall is protecting the paint, protecting the rolls of Zalgiris, of Motley, and not giving Nick the option to pass there. So I want to see the adjustments. I want to see how Fenerbahce react, and a good game plan for one game could give you the split, and then it's an open series. So
it's like what happened again. You mentioned the series with Monaco last year. So Monaco basically went through this path. They had a split in Greece, then they had a split in Monaco, and they played a game 5. So I still think that Fenerbahce can be competitive in this series. But it's a very good point what you said about non-shooting players, and I would say non-shooting playmakers and ball handlers in particular. And it's not just about the guards. I can once again take an example from NBA and what's happening right now in the playoffs. Like Domantas Sabonis has the most touches in the Sacramento Kings team. He's their leading player in assists. He's basically their main playmaker, even though he's a center. But now in the series, where coaches pay much more attention to scouting and detail, he's getting the Ben Simmons treatment. And it's so hard for him to influence the game when he's basically not being guarded. He's not a good post-up player, and he just struggles to create or to score. And Nick, as a point guard, is in a similar position. We know he's a great passer, but if it's not in the open court, if it's a set offense and he cannot make shots, that's a problem for the whole team. During the regular season, when they started 9-1, right? Something like that, 9-1. Calathes had like almost 50%.
Even more. At one point, I think it was more than 50%.
Exactly. Yeah, so basically that's what we're thinking here in Vilnius. What do you think there in Monaco? Do you think Fenerbahce can make it a good series?
I mean, before the series, I predicted them taking one game in the series, basically because I thought that defensively in a lot of situations, except from center position, they can match up Olympiacos and cause them problems. But I mean, when they're missing bodies, when they're missing players like Wilbekin, when they have Calathes suffering, when they have Dorsey scoreless, it's impossible to beat this Olympiacos team. But although I think that, I didn't watch the entire first half. I watched only the second half because of Zalgiris game. It looked like, did a good job, being close to Olympiacos. But watching Olympiacos in the third quarter, I had this is a team from another level moment. I don't know if they have this official slogan, like this is Olympiacos, but I mean, the moment was when, let's say there was a possession where Olympiacos destroyed Fenerbahce defense on perimeter. They drive, they started kicking the ball out to find open man on the 3-point line. Fenerbahce tried to rotate defensively. They kind of did a nice job, but still Vezenkov got the ball beyond the arc in a great position to shoot. For Vezenkov, being one of the most reliable spot-up shooters on the team, having a great game against Fenerbahce, it was like a great look to score a 3-pointer. but he sees Isaiah Cannon on the corner. He knows that he's hot. I think that he already made like 4 or 5 threes. So he gives an extra pass to Cannon, although he had all the conditions to shoot that ball. And Cannon sinks the three. I mean, nothing spectacular, but one simple play defines the team chemistry, the IQ of the players, and what makes this Olympiacos team just special. This is something which, separates them from being a great team. This is the elite team level. And then Cannon, I mean, having this big game, this is another story of Olympiacos, and I would emphasize Yorgos Bartzokas this time, because as Augustas mentioned, throughout the whole season, everybody, including us, we were questioning if Cannon can fill Tyler Dorsey's shoes. Number-wise, it looked like he was not delivering. Season was going, and you couldn't say that he replaced Tyler Dorsey. Dorsey was kind of back and forth on the market, so we were kind of suggesting that Olympiacos should make a move, to improve their title chances. But the thing is that Bartzokas never questioned Cannon. He always was patient with him, and he remained calm, although others already made their conclusions. And then the playoff time comes. There's this tight game against Fenerbahce. There's this tight first half. Third quarter comes, and Cannon hits 5 threes, finishing with 18 points on 6 of 7 shooting. I looked at the stats. I mean, he made 6 threes in the last 10 EuroLeague games combined since February 3rd. And it was only his 5th double-digit scoring game this season. And he does that in the matchup against Tyler Dorsey, who finishes the game scoreless. I mean, it's a special storyline. And I really believe that this confidence in Cannon, this belief in Cannon from Bartzokas, somehow it affects players to perform at that level in the crucial moments of the season. So I just had those 2 "this is Olympiacos" moments watching that game.
Yeah, it's a great point about their team chemistry. Everybody is so unselfish in that team. Nobody cares about their individual performances. It's all about the team. And now we're talking about Cannon hitting those shots. Maybe in game 2, we will be talking about Shaq McKissick, Giannis Larenzakis, or any other role player having a huge performance. That's what they did during the whole season. We can remember that they had some periods without Slukas. Okay, Thomas Walkup stepped up, Papanikolaou stepped up, McKissick stepped up, and now it's a playoff series. We're talking about Fenerbahce like 3 or 4 key players must deliver for them to win. And in Olympiacos, they are not so dependent on Vezenkov putting up 20 points, 10 rebounds every single night. They are not so dependent on Slukas getting a double-double in points and assists. It's just all about the team. And so far, Olympiacos has been the best team in Europe, in my opinion. I mean, of course, in EuroLeague is like... what's the word? It's like a very tough tournament because of the Final Four. You can be the best team and lose one game, and that's it. But from what we've seen so far, they're definitely playing best basketball.
Give me your thoughts and feelings about Kevin Punter making his best Damian Lillard impression.
It's not Dame. It's of course. I mean, it's KD. Let's be honest, and it's not the first time the comparison comes up. Actually, early in the season when Partizan faced Zalgiris and Punter got hot, I said that Zalgiris right now they're dealing with an undersized Kevin Durant, and the release is very similar. Number 7, his name is Kevin. I mean,
loves to go left and pull up.
Exactly.
By the way, kudos to our social media team making this meme, the Home Alone movie and Kevin Punter sinking the game winner.
Yeah, that was.
I didn't see that,
but
was
nice.
Yeah, sounds good. So, I mean, that shot is just what elite players do. What else to be said? Like, Kevin Punter is a killer, and he was terrorizing Madrid throughout the whole game. It's not just about the game winner, it's about the whole game. And one thing is Kevin Punter being, at the moment, probably the best scorer in Europe, but the other thing is Željko Obradović being the best coach in Europe. And the way they started the game with Smilagic popping 3 out of 3, you could see that they will do that against Eddie Tavares.
I mean, that was so obvious.
August said it actually.
They did it in the second game, and just for Lesor, like playing against Real Madrid is probably the worst matchup he could have gotten from all of the out 8 teams. But there you have Alen Smilagic, the perfect kryptonite for Walter Tavares, and it's hard to shoot over that guy, even though Željko's schemes creates you so much space. He's popping. Alexa Vramovic from the 45 is cutting, burn cutting to open up the space for his pop. And even though there is still like 2-3 meters of space already, that it's still hard to shoot over Tavares. He hits 3 of 3, and even though he fouls out quick, in the first half and in the second half, he's plus 16 in 11 minutes in a game that finishes a 2-point win for Partizan. So huge factor. You could have expected this, just like how you could have expected, Punter's greatness and Gabriel Deck dominating. I mean, if Punter doesn't hit that shot, we are talking about, man, Gabriel Deck is elite player, and we should talk about him more, but he just does it so without emotion probably, and so casually that we are not, giving him probably enough love.
I think his body strength is unmatched in EuroLeague. I mean, and he's facing Zach Ledee. It doesn't seem like he has any advantage. It's not a mismatch, but he's just going straight at him, finishing through contact, and one.
I think that's an advantage, actually. I mean, before the series,
I'm talking about like size advantage.
Oh yeah,
it's not a size advantage.
It's not. It's a quickness advantage.
He's obviously quicker, but it's not a size. He's going straight at him, body to body. That's what I'm saying. Like his body strength is unmatched. He's amazing. And he was the best player for Madrid in the game, obviously.
And going forward in the series, he will be Madrid's main point of attack. I think Partizan is matched terribly against him. Like Nunnally and Papapetru are not tall enough, not strong enough, and Ledee, Deck overpowers him with the combination of speed and strength, together. And we saw him hit a mid-range jumper. We saw him hit a 3 when Ledee gives him the shot. So I'm really interested to see if Željko, how he approaches the second game, the third game. Do they start doubling? Because he was playing basically one-on-one from 3-point line if he received the ball there. Just backs down Nunnally Papapetru, scores 2 points. I don't know if this is going to be good, these easy points for Željko going forward. But talking about Punter, going back to Punter, his play and matchup against Dzanan Musa in the last 3 minutes, I think we have to talk about it. I mean, do you think that was an obvious foul not called against him when he scored a 3+1?
I don't think so.
Because he shoves Dzanan Musa in my eyes. That's an offensive foul.
Okay, you can say that, but at the same time, Dzanan Musa in a playoff game has no right to lay on the ground for 3 seconds.
I agree with you.
And just pretend like he was hit in the face or something like that.
Doing his best Neymar impression.
You didn't get the call. Stand up and play defense. Your teammates are jumping from one man to another because you're just laying on the ground. And then Williams-Goss runs with desperation towards Kevin Punter to contest the shot, and it ends up with 3-1. Yeah. But we can talk about an offensive foul that was not called, but Dzanan Musa has no right to be on the ground when his teammates are working their asses off defending.
Completely agree.
And another thing with Musa, I mean, the way he flopped for a foul on a 3-point shot and got a call as a loose ball foul and sent Punter to the line, that was a ridiculous play.
Yeah.
That was really a ridiculous... Dzanan Musa, he was probably the most consistent player for Madrid during the regular season, but he kind of let his team down in the end of that game, in my opinion.
I think he and Hazonia were rushing a bit too much into the shots in the first half. If you remember, Partizan sometimes is playing this aggressive defense, the next defense when they come from the next man. So Musa thinks he has space, but then he sees another defender, he still tries to force the shot. Or he tries to play this fake handoff and instead not giving the ball, drive to the basket by himself. Dante Exum, great job on defense, taking 2 charges in a row. Mario Hezonja also commit 1 charge. So I think these 2 guys were trying to do a bit too much against the aggressive defense of Partizan. And it was a great sequence by Partizan when they had trouble scoring in the first half, but they got 3 or 4 stops in that sequence for their defense. So Real did not get away too much in the first half.
I still have a few talking points, but I want to hear what Donatas thinks about this game 1.
I mean, you're about to cover all this stuff I thought about talking about. I mean, for Musa, I believe, watching him match up against Kevin Punter and Punter hitting all those daggers, playing amazing basketball, and the other side of the floor, I just saw the lack of experience and maturity, I would say. I think it's this game 1 specifics, and also it was the first playoff game for Dzanan Musa. And to meet such an opponent like Partizan, it's also a huge challenge for a young kid. I would still, by EuroLeague standards, he's a young kid who has this problem or this challenge of being sometimes a hot-headed player. So I believe it goes down to his lack of experience playing, such an important games like this. And of course, matching up with the Kevin Punter, who was playing an amazing game. And for sure, it was very bad. I mean, flopping, not kind of flopping, but just staying on the ground for so long, then trying to find this foul offensively. It was just signs of immaturity. And I believe that this game 1 experience will be a huge lesson for Dzanan Musa. I have no doubts that he will learn from this, but that's what I thought watching him play. And watching Kevin Punter play, I thought that I wish I was his agent, because, I mean, he's a guy on an expiring contract. And I mean, I believe that he's a 2 million player easily in the market. And if I'm Partizan, I don't know what are my chances to keep him, because even though Partizan really stepped up financially, I don't know if they can afford having him close to 2 million. I mean, they might get him for a lower price because of his connection with Željko Obradović, because of his status in Partizan team, being the captain of the club. This is something big, but I mean, if the difference will be huge, it's not going to be easy to keep him. And it just depends on who is also going to be on the market. And of course, if I'm a big team, no matter who I have on my roster, I try to get Kevin Punter, because he's just an elite, not just because of his skill, but his off the court leadership, not the vocal leadership, I would say, but he's setting a great example, being a true pro with his approach, the way he approaches the practices, the professionalism. It's all there. And I mean, I look at the table, I see Barcelona and Corey Higgins sitting on the bench during the playoffs again for the consecutive season. There's this Olympiacos thing, right? Cannon had this amazing game, but and I'm not sure if they have capabilities of bringing another superstar player like Kevin Punter in the free agency. Then there's Real Madrid, but they kind of have Dzanan Musa, so I'm not sure if they could go after him. Monaco with 3-star level guards already. Maccabi, they already kind of all set. Milan, I mean, if I'm Milan, I would apologize to Kevin Punter.
They should have kept him in the first place. Come on.
For not keeping him, I would apologize him with giving a big bag of money, just to come back and to save their offense. So I'm also very intrigued about this part of his performance.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I like I said, I still have a few talking points about the game. Well, first of all, obviously Eddie Tavares got hurt, but surprisingly, it didn't turn out to be a huge problem for Madrid, because Yabusele had a good game as a 5, and it worked out pretty well. However, at the moment when I watched the game, I was thinking, if that's a serious injury, they're in trouble, because their backup center, Vincent Poirier, is also out for a while. And as deep as Madrid is, losing key player like Eddie Tavares could cost them the series. But as we heard, the injury is not that serious, and he's probably going to be available for game 2. And the other thing is, well, obviously, for Partizan, the plan was always to be in the game and have a chance keeping the score close, and maybe have a chance to win with a buzzer beater as it happened. So it went according to their plan, even though Madrid had a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter. And when a game goes like this, every small detail matters. And I have a lot of respect for Rudy Fernandez, but if I was the coach of Madrid, I wouldn't want to see Rudy Fernandez guarding Exum one-on-one in such an important possession. Rudy is 37 or 38 years old.
In his defense, he had a great sequence of couple of plays defensive at the start of the quarter.
He did. I agree with you, but
not in the end.
It pains me to see Rudy Fernandez guarding such an athletic player like Dante Exum while Mario Hezonja is on the bench. And it's again happening in the last minutes of the game where you can make those substitutions defense, offense. Chus Mateo had problems with it during the regular season in some games. I can remember Chacho guarding Shane Larkin in a very important possession after a timeout. And it sort of happened again. And I'm not blaming Rudy for that. He put a lot of effort to stop Dante Exum. It's just that Exum has huge steps and such incredible physicality that sometimes he's just unstoppable. But to me, I'm thinking that Hezonja is a much better defender, and he could do a better job in a situation like this. So again, Real Madrid gave Exum's and one, Punter's 3 and 1, and basically, that's what decided the outcome of the game. Partizan had the last shot, and it was up to Željko to decide whether he wants to take the shot earlier, in case if they miss, to have a chance to foul and somehow save the game. But he went with a full possession, keep the ball, give it to your best player, and trust his abilities to score. And Punter did a great job creating some space with that crossover. Yabusele, again, he also did what he can, in my opinion.
But that depends only on Punter.
Punter is just too good. I mean, you cannot blame Yabusele for that shot.
Željko got what he wanted. You know, Yabusele is not elite. He's good, but he's not elite. You know, Partizan were looking for him. And Kevin Punter, when he's going to the left, he's pulling up. You are at his mercy. Yeah. There will be a video out about this game later today. And I found game winners from Punter. And, Partizan fans might not like it, but he had hit an identical shot with Zvezda jersey 3 years ago against Asvel. Same isolation play, a crossover right to left, one dribble, and he is pulling up over the big guy. Identical shot. So, that's his go-to move. He said it himself. I've been doing it since 7 years old. I'm practicing that shot. So, if it's your move, it basically, in the end, if it's not the best defense of, this season, it depends only on Punter. And, talking about the whole series, it will be interesting to see, who wins, or a better talent from Madrid, or a better deeper roster of Madrid, or better coach with clear ideas. Because this is a series where I think it's going to be, all games are going to be really similar. Teams already know which places to attack, through Dek, through Yabusele in the post, through Tavares maybe if he is healthy, and Partizan knows where to attack also. With Punter attacking Tavares, with Smilagic, with Lazort, they had trouble scoring from half court. So, which plan works better?
Yeah.
Which coach can adjust, and maybe little details, some new wrinkles throughout the series. So it's going to be interesting to see, or players or a coach. So I'm really intrigued. For me, this is the most interesting series.
I'm predicting a 5-game series, honestly. It's easy to predict that Madrid is going to tie the series today, although who knows what's going to happen. Partizan will play without any pressure because they basically did what they had to do this week already. They won the first game in Madrid. But I think that with so much experience, Madrid is capable of winning in Stark Arena, even though there's going to be like 60,000 people or 100,000 people. I don't know.
It's going to be like Maracana during the World Cup in Brazil.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy for sure. I mean, it's not only a sold out, it's like a sold out on top of a sold out.
It's
probably
I don't know
like that.
how to get tickets to that game, but I have Partizan in 4, so I'm sticking with this opinion, and it's going to be really interesting to see today's game.
And you had Monaco in 4 and 5 as well, right? For the series.
Monaco in 5, and
I also have Monaco in 5, but I said when I made a prediction that right now my mind says that Maccabi is in a much better situation and they should win the series in 4, but then my heart says that Monaco, since I kind of cheered for them during the whole season, can win it and can make it to the Final Four. So I said Monaco in 5. But with that shooting, it's not going to happen.
Like I said 20 or 30 minutes ago, bad shooting is exposed in the playoffs. I mean, not bad shooting, bad spacing, not having enough floor stretchers. You can have the best backcourt in the world, or second best, We are having
in
this
Europe.
battle of the best backcourts in this series. You can have amazing perimeter players, but if they are guarded by 2 or 3 people on every possession, and basically on every drive they see 6 hands around them, they cannot. It's hard to make shots, and other guys are not doing that. 4 of 26. That's
I do
awful.
agree with you, and that's a big problem for Monaco. But in my opinion, there were plenty of open looks from Okobo, Lloyd, and James. They're good shooters. I'm not talking about Blossom Game or Diallo. There could be some nights when they hit those shots, those corner threes, but they're not very consistent shooters. Maccabi probably will take Blossom Game shooting like 6 or 7 threes per game. But there were so many open looks. Elio Okobo lost his confidence.
I calculated at least 8 really wide open shots that Monaco missed. And I think that's huge. And it's not like Blossom Game or Motiejunas was just taking those shots. I mean, Okobo, Lloyd, it was okay. Mike James, he got a different treatment. He didn't have basically any open looks, so even he had to force some shots, to get a shot, to get a better shot to score from the 3. But yeah, they were in a situation to score, and basically a couple or a 3-4 3-pointers out of these open looks combined with some tough shots. I mean, they could have changed the game immediately. And on the opposite side of the floor, you see Wade Baldwin, making the off-board 3-pointer. So that should hit your head really heavy when you're on your worst shooting night the entire season. I mean, 4 out of 26, 15% of shooting percentages is just ridiculous.
And it was possible to predict that it could be a problem for Monaco during the series, because during the regular season, they were the worst 3-point shooting team. But they compensated for it with other things that they do in the court. However, in my opinion, Maccabi didn't even play such a good game, honestly.
No.
They didn't. But it was just
offensively,
I mean, defensively, they were fine, but a lot was down to Monaco missing shots. And Monaco was staying in the game just because of free throws. But after the first half, I was thinking, Monaco missed all of their 3-pointers and they're down by 3?
Yeah.
That's a good position to be in. And I expected them to start making some shots, but Maccabi made a run in the third quarter. They built a lead, and they kept it in the fourth quarter, because when these two teams played each other during the regular season, Maccabi at home dominated the fourth quarter. Monaco at home dominated the fourth quarter. It didn't happen this time. And I think Monaco, as a club, has to do something about the Maccabi fans, the Maccabi support, because they were shooting to the basket where they have their own fans in the first half. But in the second half, they were shooting to the basket with Maccabi fans behind it. And it's probably not a coincidence that Mike James made only 2 from 6 shooting free throws while Maccabi fans were chanting some bad words towards him. So
other players didn't miss. They missed 7 free throws out of 28, and so.
But your best player missed.
But your best player. I mean, why is he having
that's
problems?
That's a problem. And I'm just thinking, is it possible to arrange somehow that they would shoot to that basket in the first half and shoot to the other in the second?
I'll have to ask it, or even to make this suggestion, because it makes sense. Because the funny part is that Monaco was probably the most generous team and the host for the away team fans, because Zalgiris fans had huge problems of getting tickets to Barcelona game. A lot of tickets and reservations were cancelled. Kind of the same happened with Madrid, but of course, Serbians, they are smart. They always find a way how to get in, and they actually created a nice atmosphere. And Monaco was probably the most generous team because they find an agreement for letting in 580 fans to the gym of like 5,000 capacity. This is a nice percentage of fans that you're allowing to your gym. And then they're getting this treatment with Mike James, getting these fans screaming at him like "fuck you, Mike James" chants and stuff like that. So
I didn't want to say it out loud, but yeah, thank you, Donatas.
Yeah, and Mike heard it actually.
It was impossible not to hear. If I heard it on a broadcast, then of course he heard it being there.
It felt like the game was played in the neutral court. Or it was kind of some cup tournament game with both team fans visiting the arena. So
games 3 and 4 will be played in a neutral camp as well. So good luck for Monaco beating that. I mean,
but they must win today to save the series, because if you go to Tel Aviv being down 0-2, it's basically done. It's done. So they must win.
I think they will win. I think they will bounce back, because you cannot shoot worse than that. First of all. The second thing is that I think that some of the players, they had some mentality issues approaching the game 1. I mean, Elie Okobo was in a great shape recently in the last couple of months, emerging as a potential new franchise player, even maybe over Mike James, giving his skill, youth, and his potential. And then it felt like he missed some nice looks. I mean, the ball was like almost going in, and then he came out. He missed some nice layups with the space he created through the contact, and it felt like that Elie took himself out of the game. I mean, I don't remember an elite player kind of already giving up on the game in the end of the third quarter, and especially they hurt a lot Monaco defensively. I mean, basically Lorenzo Brown, Wade Baldwin, they were going just through him, and they killed Monaco's defense, whether with floaters, mid-range jumpers, I mean, attacking the rim from their sweet spots, or just, passing lobs and dishing those assists to big. So I think it was I would say, huge mental mistake or a huge mental issue that Okobo faced, because Lloyd also had an awful game, but it's because he had some health issues. He barely practiced in the last week or two. He lost a lot of weight, significant weight, so he was not himself, but I kind of get it. But at the same time, Okobo is playing 35 minutes. Lloyd, everybody knows that Lloyd is not in his best shape. He's playing 25 minutes. If I'm Obradovic, I would try to think of some, implementing some other guys to step up, or even to try to throw the taller guys on the floor, play the bigger lineup. Because, for instance, Alpha Diallo had an amazing second quarter. I mean, he was both very aggressive, attacking the ball, and defensively, he did a nice job. And what's important, he basically took Wade Baldwin, out of his control, I would say. Wade Baldwin was very close to losing his mind in the end of the second quarter. First of all, there was this unsportsmanlike foul where actually I saw the clear play. I think that Wade Baldwin was the first to elbow or just push Alpha Diallo. Alpha just, he came back, and refs, they just saw this move by Alpha Diallo and Wade Baldwin also fall, although I think it was a good acting. But anyways, Alpha did a great job, of trying to make Wade Baldwin out of his control. And the third quarter starts, I see Alpha Diallo on the bench. And Maccabi makes a run, Alpha Diallo comes back, and Monaco is already down by more than 10 points. So I think it was also important for the momentum of the game, because from that point, Monaco basically never recovered.
He's the only Monaco player that is in the plus category, in the positive category, in plus minus. Yeah, okay. +1 in 23 minutes, but he had 5 fouls. So,
but Jordan Lloyd could be a very important player in the series. He was their best performer against Maccabi in both regular season games. Of course, he's not in his best shape right now, but I always have confidence in these experienced players to make it happen when it matters the most. So that's why I trust also Coach Obradovic in game 2. But the thing is that for Obradovic, it's obviously very tempting to play his free guards against Maccabi, because when Maccabi subbed out Bonzi Carlson, they don't really have a big body at the third position, and it makes it possible for you to play Lloyd, James, and Okobo all together. And I get it, as it's very tempting. You see those struggles offensively, you see all those missed shots, and you're thinking, I need to put my 3 best offensive players on the same lineup right now. And I get what Sasha's trying to do, because if they play Hilliard as a 3, it's not a mismatch defensively.
No.
Only when Bonzi Carlson is on the court, you might have a mismatch that therefore you need to play Alpha or Blossom game at the third position. And maybe during this series we will see some minutes of Jakuba Utara if he's healthy. If you remember last year against Olympiacos, he did a huge job defensively and also made some spot-up shots, which was important at the time. But I mean, we're talking a lot about Monaco and their problems. Maybe we should talk more about the winning team, Maccabi.
Can I make the last point about Monaco?
For sure.
And then I also had some Monaco notes. I want to see if, maybe Monaco go to an even smaller lineup.
John Brown at
improve.
5?
I would say it doesn't matter who is at the 5, but, maybe, Alpha Diallo at the 4 playing, just to have more shooting, because if this bad shooting continues, if this streak of missed threes continues, maybe, Diallo at the 4, just like Dwayne Bacon last year at the 4, it was really successful. Obviously, Bacon gave you, isolation plays, one-on-one, tough shots.
But then Diallo has to shoot.
But then Diallo has to shoot, I agree.
Because he had so many doubts.
He was hesitating so much.
He was hesitating. He was wide open like 3 or 4 times, and then he decided not to take the shot and penetrate instead. So Sasha Obradovic, in that case, should have a clear message to his players. I don't care about how many shots you missed in the past. If you're open, you shoot. It's just that simple. But talking about Maccabi, first of all, Lorenzo Brown started kind of slow, and it was Wade Baldwin's night. And then they just found players at the right time. Like, for example, when Monaco was trying to get back in the game, Darren Hilliard steps up and makes 2 huge threes. Josh Nebo all of a sudden became a huge factor in the second half, playing all these pick and rolls.
Man, that was such a great game by him. I wanted to mention him.
Please do.
I mean, the guy almost hit his head to the side of the backboard. That catch in the second half was something amazing. Yeah, that was something from out of this world. Just his presence in the paint. I mean, his jumping ability, his rim protecting ability is something out of this world. I think he played a huge part. Perfect from the field. Obviously, it is the easiest shots in the world, but he also hit 1 floater.
He did a good job protecting the rim as well.
Yeah, so great game for him. And I wanted to shout out John Bartolomeo as well.
Yes, my man, the captain.
He is playing amazing in the second half of the season. Crazy energy, heart of the team, just gets under the skin of any guard that's in front of him, sets the tone with his energy. And this is what's happening when you're playing away. Yeah. When you see the same attitude in Tel Aviv, those fans get crazy. If he hits a couple of threes, the atmosphere gets lit. The team sees the example, and the coaches always say, point guards set the tone on defense, because you're the first guy that guards the ball usually. So if you're that aggressive as Bartolomeo, for others, it's easy to follow.
His impact in the third quarter was huge. And Monaco this season, they are the best team of taking care of the ball. They have least turnovers. But all of a sudden in the third quarter, Di Bartolomeo forces like 3 turnovers in a row with his energy, effort, and hustle plays. And he can sacrifice for the team. He can take fouls. He doesn't care about that. He's a true captain of the team, and it's good that you mentioned him because I had it on my mind as well. So exactly. Calathes just found players at the right time, and it's also a good thing for Maccabi that Poitras is back in the rotation, and he had some solid minutes as well. So now Calathes will have a better rotation with his bigs. He has Sorkin, he has Nebo, he has Poitras, he has Cohen, so many options. And Maccabi is in a great position right now. They are leading, and they already know whether they win or lose today, they have the possibility to not go back to Monaco, to close it in Tel Aviv. And that's what they wanted because they're the best home team this season.
Calathes also deserves the credit for preparing this game plan, forcing Mike James to kick the ball out as much as possible. As Augie said, trying to put the ball in the hands of the players who has a lower shooting percentage. Exactly. And just to make him get rid of the ball, to avoid him shooting the 3-pointers and to take those gambles that paid off with so many missed shots. And it was actually, it's rare when you enter the locker room, when you make those post-game interviews, it's rare to hear in the first statement from the players. It was rare experience to hear basically every player saying this win, this achievement goes for the coach. First of all the credits for him, because, for instance, Darun Hillard said that Maccabi was preparing to play the defense this way the whole week. Even in the Israeli league games, they were preparing for this kind of Mike James treatment. And it felt like, Maccabi was a better prepared team for the game one experience. But at the same time, I believe that, again, Monaco will do their adjustments, and it's time for Sasha Obradović to continue this chess match. But what is hard to respond is the chemistry that Maccabi has. You mentioned guys like Di Bartolomeo, Josh Nebo, Poitras playing his first EuroLeague game after a long break. Even Cohen. Everybody coming off the bench, it feels like they have their clear roles. They give all their hearts to fulfill these roles. They all feel important in this team, and they all bringing this, energy, chemistry. They don't care about the points they're gonna score. This is a rare unity that you see in the EuroLeague, and we just discussed Olympiacos, the unity that they have, and I see some nice tendency in Maccabi recently. And on the opposite side, and at least in game one, I didn't see any kind of chemistry from Monaco's side. Supporting each other, being there, having guys like Di Bartolomeo, fighting their asses off, trying not to survive, not to surrender in the end of the third quarter. So I believe that Monaco also has to do this mental adjustment. Bench players have to be more active. The team has to be more vocal, and they cannot let their hands down so early.
I partially agree with you, but at the same time, I'm trying not to overanalyze and overcomplicate things. To me, it looks just as simple as make some shots and avoid some sloppy turnovers that happened in the third quarter. Make some shots and you're good. If Maccabi plays more or less the same game that they played on Tuesday, you can beat them as long as you make shots.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
And
on top of making those shots, Monaco still has to do some mental adjustments. At least
you're there in Monaco, you have a better feeling probably about that, and you see the bench reactions and everything. You're closer to the action, but
it's not like that they have some locker room problems that may look actually watching them on TV.
Yeah.
They're good. Everything is fine. It's just that they don't have that kind of the same, chemistry or energy that Maccabi has, and in tough moments it really boosts the team.
I just think today they just need, in the very first possession, that nice feeling of ball going through the net. And if you make your first shot, it might be a good night for them. But you cannot win in today's basketball shooting 4 from 26. It's almost impossible.
Get some easy shots, get your players going, and in Obradovic's defense, if he needs any. Last year, he and his coaching staff were making great adjustments in the series against Olympiacos. So I expect to see some of that today, and I expect Monaco to even the series.
I expect actually to have a long series, maybe even a game 5.
We're still
but we'll
staying with our takes.
Maccabi is in a great position.
Yeah, Maccabi is in a great position.
And I love both of these teams. So either way, I'm happy that one of them will be in the Final Four.
So 1 hour has passed. Do you want Donatas to talk about the last game?
I think we've talked about everything. I think that's enough,
all the playoff games.
We've covered all the playoff games, NBA, EuroLeague. What else is there to talk about?
I've actually picked Maccabi in 5, and I received I don't know how to call it, friendly or funny middle finger treatment from Mike James for that kind of choice. So yeah. At least
so he's not coming to the pod anymore, I guess.
No, he said that he's gonna talk to me after game 5, so I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, so he knows he's going to game 5.
Either way. I mean,
the reporter,
if win or lose, I have him. So
by the way, the reporter that did the TV interviews after the game had a second question for Sasha Obradovic and said, "There are 4 more games still, right?"
4 more games.
Like, there's something we don't know, maybe, you know.
Sasha didn't respond to that, but like, yeah, sure, there are 4 more games, whatever. It's no big deal. Maybe the reporter thought it's like best of 7 or something. I don't know. Anyway,
it sucks so bad to talk about Zalgiris and Barcelona, right? Can we just be really short?
I can be really short. During the season when Zalgiris was winning, so many times I said that to me, their offense at some point of the game is unwatchable. And I was really heavily criticized by Zalgiris fans. How can you say that when Zalgiris is winning games? But I that was my honest opinion. Their offense sometimes becomes so static and basically unwatchable. It's just like we take the ball and we see what happens type of basketball, and that doesn't win you games in playoffs. But even that is not the biggest problem in my opinion. First of all, Barca played almost a perfect game. They were so well prepared for the switch-all defense. The ball movement and everything. They were creating shots from the very first possession. Credit to Sharas. You know that sometimes I'm not a huge fan of his basketball, but this time they really played beautiful team basketball, and role players made shots. Shanli, Kuric, everybody. It was a good free-flowing basketball with clear ideas how they want to attack. So Sharas definitely had his team fully prepared. But to me, the biggest disappointment talking about Zalgiris, that in the first half they were out-hustled. Of course, they're a less talented team. They're not a good offensive team. They're by far the worst offensive team from the 8 clubs that are competing in the playoffs. So in that case, you cannot afford to be out-hustled by a more talented team. And that's what happened in the first half. That's how Barca built the early lead, and they were in control during the whole game. And that's the thing. I mean, if Zalgiris wants to be in the series, first of all, they cannot concede 50 points in a half. And they have to be the team that wants it more, hustles more, plays with physicality from the first minute. I don't expect them to all of a sudden become offensive stars. Like, they don't have that in them. They don't have that quality. At least they need Isaiah Taylor to be healthy to have more options. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking after game 1.
But it's funny how some people said Barca is the most best suited team for Zalgiris out of all these.
Who said that?
There were some people
really?
who were questioning.
Do you have any names? Because I don't know those people.
I don't keep names, but
okay.
I just heard this information coming from some people's mouths. And how can you say this when Barca's biggest, let's say, not maybe the biggest, but one of the best qualities is also the best Zalgiris quality. The desire to win, the fighting spirit, the hustling, denying aggressively the defense is not letting you play.
Yeah.
is the same thing that Zalgiris does. So this here they're even, and as we saw yesterday, Barca out-hustled them in the first half. We don't even need to talk about the offensive side. So, and with Zalgiris making so many atypical mistakes, as you said, against the switching defense, Šaras prepared them well for every situation. I think this year he has learned from the mistakes that happened in the last 2 playoff series, and they just have so many different options how to attack switch all. Obviously, it helps that you don't have Nick Calathes who wasn't a floor spacer, and you have basically at all times 5 guys who can shoot. Even Tomasz Satoranski has a 50%.
That's the question that I had when you spoke about Calathes in the beginning of the podcast. So actually, Barca and Šaras, they were really heavily criticized by making this, let's say, swap, letting Nick Calathes away and bringing Tomasz Satoranski. But watching Calathes, I mean, and Barca's situation right now, do you think that they came out as a winners from this situation?
Satoranski turned out to be a better fit for Šaras' system.
But what I missed from Zalgiris actually yesterday, you make Satoranski prove that he is a 50% shooter in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Give him the Nick treatment, because you are, you have to risk something.
Yeah.
You are not the better team in this matchup.
Yeah.
You have to risk somewhere. And there was one situation where they switched, they double Nick Mirotic in the post, and Ulanovas is on the weak side. He has to take the first pass. The first pass goes to the corner, and there is Alex Abrinas in the corner, and he's guarding Tomasz Satoranski. And he stays with Satoranski, not even concentrated, or not even focused, on who is in the corner. Why not give Satoranski the Calathes treatment, see what happens, instead of letting the much better shooters make wide open threes? I did not see Zalgiris even trying to get to risk with Satoranski as much as Bayern and Zenit were doing with Nick in the last years. This is one thing I would love to see. If he hits those threes, this is okay. But what if he misses 3? What if he misses 4? Maybe you stay in the game longer. Maybe the fourth quarter comes, the pressure hits because Barca needs to win at home both games. They are the favorites, and maybe you have a chance to win if you are not making mistakes on defense and if you are not out-hustled by Barca. So
instead, they gave shots to Shanley, for example. Like Hayes goes to help in the low post because Butkevičius is with Mirotic, and nobody's covering Shanley. I don't think he's the guy you want to see taking open spot-up shots.
Definitely.
He's not the guy. And also he had a great night. And that's another huge thing for Šaras. In game 1, he was able to spread the minutes. He didn't overplay any of his key players. Everybody had their role in the game, had their part in the game. And the second unit actually was really good, even in the first quarter. Like Rokas Jokubaitis was very solid as a floor general. Also, Žalgiris allowed him to drive to the left too many times and too easily, in my opinion.
Zalgiris were allowing everything yesterday to Barcelona. Switch all didn't work. Step out didn't work. Last thing I wanted to mention is the inexperience from Zalgiris players. There was one play when Abrinas made a free from the top. Barca plays side pick and roll. Ignas Brazdeikis is the low man in the other corner. He turns his head from Abrinas to watch one second what is happening. Maybe he needs to help in the paint. And this is the moment where Abrinas gets a pin down and comes to the middle. And that's been the Žalgiris set play since Šarūnas Jasikevičius was coaching Artūras Milaknis 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You could find clips every season in every game almost of that situation. And as Abrinas is coming up, Žalgiris assistant coaches are showing to him, go up, go up, go up, because they know what's coming. They 100% know what to expect in that situation. But, Ignas Brazdeikis is a newcomer to the playoffs, as most of the Žalgiris team, and yesterday it showed. So I hope to see a reaction.
And I'm just thinking for Žalgiris to even have a chance at snatching a game or two, it has to be a game in low 70s. There's no way in hell they beat Barca by scoring. It's not going to happen. Let's be realistic. And to me, honestly, it's still mind-boggling how Zalgiris is in the playoffs with such a assist-to-turnover ratio. It's something really unique, and it's a miracle what Kazis Maksvitis did with his team. Even if they get swept, it's already a great season for Zalgiris. But obviously, we would like to have 2 sold-outs,
of course,
which means they need to win at least 1 game.
Just one thing to add. I had this feeling that as much as missing 3-pointers hurt Monaco against Maccabi, I had the same feeling with the Barca getting offensive rebounds, especially in the beginning of the game. And as you guys mentioned, you cannot allow as Zalgiris to be out-hustled by Barca. But the problem is that there were also some, I would call tactical things behind the crazy offensive rebound numbers in the first quarter, for instance, when they built this double-digit lead. They got 6 offensive rebounds. Basically, all of them were converted into second chance points. And I was told an interesting thing, because Zalgiris was playing pretty aggressive pick and roll defense with usually big guy coming high to the ball handler. But the thing was that Barca's bigs, they were basically slipping all screens, and instead they were quickly rolling to the basket. So when you have 2 Zalgiris guys on the guard and you have a missed shots, you have a disadvantage protecting the rim, protecting the board. And that's when Barca managed to get a lot of offensive rebounds and to convert them into second chance points. So that's
both teams used the slip screens yesterday, I don't know, like 25 times in total. Zalgiris actually got some nice 3 times they scored on the slip action in the third quarter, because the slip lets you play not from a static position one-on-one. And they were trying to do this from the start, and obviously Barca did the same because they knew Zalgiris is going to switch, so you slip the screens as well. And when they switched, there was a mismatch already under the basket, so they got a couple offensive rebounds by that. Those slip screens created additional mismatches even when Zalgiris were hedging. But some also clips where just Mike Tobey, Jan Vesely comes in, pushes Zalgiris guy under the basket, grabs the rebound. So part of this was Zalgiris' defensive tactic. Part of this was the hustle that Rytis mentioned.
Yeah, when you guys say yesterday, to me it still feels like it happened today.
I forgot that. I'm sorry. Tuesday,
I'm thinking like,
Wednesday
what was
night.
it? Was it yes? Did they play yesterday? I thought it was today.
For the outro of the pod, I would say, hey, Rytis, let's give Rytis some break. Let's give him some sleep. But I just forgot the fact that now that you still have like 2 podcasts.
And I still have the Monaco game in the evening. Damn. So I'm not sure. I might get a nap at some point, at least for
during
a few hours.
During the other pods?
I don't know, man. Let's just see what happens. Let's see how the day goes. I have to apologize for my slow talking today and my really poor English. I do know when I'm speaking poor English and when I'm forgetting words, even though I consider myself kind of fluent, but today is not my best day. But yeah,
I mean, you could say you were Monaco, just struggled, and you will be better next time.
Out of 10, I would give myself a 4 for today's performance.
Nah, you're being way too hard. Come on, man.
You're better, bro.
There was just one moment where you forget what you wanted to say.
I think in the beginning when I was talking about Bucks and Budenholzer, I was just like making up grammar that doesn't really exist in English. Okay. But yeah, whatever. We're Lithuanians. We're not native speakers. We're doing our best.
Thanks for being on the pod so early. As I said, there's a lot of stuff happening on actually both BasketNews editions, both on Lithuanian and English one. So August is providing a lot of stuff, a lot of analysis on basketnews.lt. On basketnews.com, you can find a lot of exclusive content because we have all 4 home courts covered by BasketNews journalists. And for instance, this morning you can read, the interview with Mishko Arnautovic that I managed to catch up in Monaco is already published. So a lot of stuff over there. Just keep reading us. Just keep watching all the stuff we put on the YouTube. Please press like button, subscribe buttons, because it also really helps us to grow. And also, if you like what we're doing, join our BN Plus community on basketnews.com/plus. So thank you guys. Pleasure to see you again, and see you soon on Monday already in Vilnius studio.